We're excited to welcome to the show Manhattan Beach Open winner, Betsi Flint. Betsi, thanks for joining us once again.
Thanks for having me.
We were just saying how this is your second appearance on the illustrious Coach Your Brains Out podcast, but your first where it's just you. So last time you had Emily Day to help you out, but this time you're in the hot seat.
I'm nervous.
Yeah, good. We're glad we can challenge you. Hopefully we can. But before we challenge you, we've got to first congratulate you because you had quite an exciting weekend and a great season already. But a big weekend we wanted to talk about was you won your first Manhattan Beach Open Championship. Kind of wondering first, how did you celebrate? Did you go out and party all night and take on the town? What'd you do?
Yeah, definitely was out all night in the hurricane. That didn't really happen. No, we did go to Shellback because April recommended it. She said she didn't go her first time. We made an appearance. I brought Cora in. Cora was the star of the show. And
How
they
many
sang
how
We Are
many
the
beers did Cora
Champions
have?
and about zero. But I asked for some chocolate milk, they didn't give it to her.
Uh,
So yeah, we went in, celebrated for 5 minutes and left, and I got to play in puddles with Cora right after. So that was fun because and we started Sunday at 7 a.m. was our first match. And so I was gone all morning. I hadn't seen her. She hadn't seen me. She was overwhelmed. There's a great picture of us. She's crying as I'm holding the Manhattan Beach plaque. And that's just typical toddlerhood right there. So it was nice to play in puddles with her after and just celebrate and be in the moment there.
yeah. And so people who don't know, Cora is your 3-year-old daughter? No,
Two and a half.
2.5-year-old daughter. And she was less excited about the Manhattan Open Championship and more excited about the puddles. So good for her. She gets it. Okay, well, let's get into this. I mean, it's a kind of a fun journey, fun adventure. We get to learn from you about. You guys took the long road. So just for those who didn't follow along, you guys were the 1 seed going into the tournament, and you open up the tournament playing the lowest seed, the 32 seed, and you lose a 3-set match. Not to rub it in at all, but I think it was the first time this has ever happened. I think I might have heard that. So not something that happens often, not something probably you were expecting. What were some of the initial emotions and how'd you guys respond after losing that first match?
Yeah, we just want to make it interesting and play a lot of volleyball for our friends and family.
Smart, smart.
Um, it was definitely like heartbreaking right away. It was like, and came in, we knew we had expectations of like winning, and we definitely took the game seriously. They outplayed us. We didn't play well. It hurt right away, and it took some time. We're like, let's take like 20-30 minutes to kind of like regroup and then talk as a team. So it was nice just to have that space and separate like just the emotions initially and kind of think about it and process it. And after that, we're just forgetting about it. Like we're gonna walk around like it didn't affect us. We're just moving on to the next match and like let's say what we want to say, but we're moving on and just focusing on one match at a time, which we found we're really good at doing as a team. Um, when we're just focused on that one thing and not looking too far ahead. So that's what we did. And April was great. She was supportive. She had told us like stories of like men's players who had like come back, and I think Trevor Crab, he was like, he just shrugged his shoulders, like, all right, let's go. So yeah, I mean, it sucked, but it's awesome now, the outcome of it, but it was definitely heartbreaking right away.
Yeah.
Was it still like I know you were taking it one game at a time, but did you still think there was a chance of winning when you're that far in the contenders bracket?
I think right away it was like, no, you feel like, oh gosh, like what did we just do? Like, and we're bad at like Julia's kind of injured, and um playing extra matches is not great for her. So I think it really hurt her mentally, like to lose that, like knowing how many matches we could play. So yeah, for a little bit I was like, I'm gonna have a free weekend to hang out with my family. I don't know, I don't really want this. Like, so that definitely crossed my mind, but was able to snap out of it and just focus on the next thing.
And I guess, did you, when you're talking about focusing on the next thing, did you guys like lean on any of your team values or personal values heading to the next match? Was that a conversation?
We didn't talk about that specifically, but we talked about, yeah, like we're really good at like just being determined and playing like in the present. We played in Montreal a few weeks before that and came from the qualifier, and just we played so many matches. I think we played like 9 matches or something like that in a short amount of time. And again, like battling some of Julia's injuries and looking too far ahead. We just talked about like, okay, next match we're forfeiting. Like we just kept saying that, like, let's just play this one now. Let's just, doesn't matter what's happening next. Like we're just playing this one, giving it our all, and then we can reevaluate. And then we won. We're like, okay, are we gonna play? Yeah, we're playing. So kind of have that mentality of like nothing's ahead. Like we're done after this. Like let's just give it our all. And that's, I mean, when we talk about do or die mentality, and we thrive in that. So obviously you want that buffer being in the winners bracket, but it was nice just to have that mentality going in. And yeah, we're really focused every match after that.
What does that give you? Is that like a sense of freedom or just focus when you're not like, hey, this is the only match that matters, and maybe we'll forfeit?
Yeah, it's definitely gave us urgency. And
Mm.
I think for her, just like, you know, thinking about what it's going to do to your body and how it hurts, like that's really hard. So I think that helped her feel more free. But yeah, it helps me feel free and urgent to just win each point and not overthink anything before that or what's next.
Hmm. That's great. Have you guys established team values, or do you guys have, I guess, personal values that you guys have talked about?
We did way early on, but we haven't touched on them. I think I was reading some of the questions and thought this is something we can improve on as a team. Um, but for sure, for me, like I know one of my strengths is determination and being able to bring that out. And it's hard to replicate all the time, like being urgent and determined, but just remembering like that's my strength and I can bring that when I decide I want to.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like you have to like, I don't know, have like lectures about it, or it sounds like when I was listening to it, it sounded like the clear core values, at least for you, and it sounds like as a team, is being present and being determined. And it sounds like you're living it, like you have experiences to pull from. Like we did this in other situations, we can do that again. So I think that's even better than just having a word. Like you have stories to draw on. So that's good.
Yeah, well, thanks.
No, I think it's important to have that, and I think you guys can continue to pull on those experiences. So you mentioned April Ross, and you know, obviously pretty awesome to have someone like her on your sideline who's been through so much as a player, and someone who's, yeah, always striving for excellence. And this is probably just awesome to be around. But yeah, what did she do? How did she help you guys kind of as you reset and made your way through the contenders bracket?
Yeah, she was great. I just loved her confidence, and like she was ready to win the tournament still. She was like we've got this. Like she showed up Saturday with her Shellbacks hat on. She's like, I'm channeling Sunday, like, and she wore it again on Sunday, and she was just like confident that we were gonna still win the tournament, which was awesome. Because definitely we have those self-doubts at times, and that really helped. Like just she believed in us. Um, yeah, and we didn't talk about it after, you know, we debriefed, and it was just about like moving on. And yeah, I loved her confidence moving forward.
Where does that's just her personality? Like, is she always that way? I feel like I've been in the semis of the Manhattan Open, and I'm like, I got no shot. And like she yeah, she just carries herself that way all the time. Is that just who she is?
I wouldn't say she's like overconfident or anything, but like she like truly believed in us. Obviously, she was the great like or one of the best players ever.
I guess
So
that helps.
that really helps knowing you can win every match. Yeah.
So other than confidence and belief, what are some other lessons you've learned from your time with April?
Yeah, she's great. She's super direct and tells us like what we need to hear, even if it's hard. She has a super high standard in practice, and that definitely holds us to a high standard. Even with like setting, like she's super nitpicky and yeah, so it just helps us be better and just be focused on each rep, and we're not out there like taking reps off. We're just always trying to hit that standard.
What does that mean to hold some, you know, high standard? Is she like yelling and like rah rah, or like what sort of stuff, you know, keeps the level high?
Yeah, no, she's not yelling. Yeah, I'd say just like in practice, if we're, I don't know, we're playing, she'll just call us out on like, all right, like that wasn't a good set. Like you need to fix that, just little things. And I think it really just helps us stay mindful each point, or each rep. Like I think it can get monotonous, and um yeah, I think that's kind of the biggest thing.
What are some qualities just in general that makes an effective coach for you?
Um, for sure, like the relationship, someone who cares, someone who is invested and wants us to get better. I do think um, there's an aspect of like helping us problem solve, helping us learn, and having like a specific focus each practice, having the 1 to 3 things that we're really dialed in on so we can get better.
Is that something you guys come up with together, or is it something she brings? Or
Yeah, we do weekly film sessions, so that's really helpful. And that helps us get more dialed in on what the focus is moving into the next week.
Pretty cool to have her in your team, part of your team. Imagine just being around her. It's infectious to keep striving for excellence. So I'm excited for you guys to continue the journey. So going back to the tournament, you guys go through the contenders bracket. You play lots of matches Friday, lots of matches Saturday, and lots of 3-setters along the way. I think I saw when you guys were down late in the third. You know, teams almost knocking you out, all sorts of stress, different experiences. And then to add to that, there's an impending hurricane in Manhattan Beach, which never happens. Of course, it happens on the Sunday Manhattan, and you guys have to start Sunday at 7 a.m. So it takes away from sleep, adds more adversity. I even saw some videos you were warming up in the dark at like 6 a.m. Yeah, it just seems like it would have been easy to say, oh, this isn't our weekend. You know, we weren't meant to win. Um, it seems like you guys didn't do that. So what helped you persevere?
Yeah, that Sunday mentality is different for sure. I think once we got there, it was like, okay, we're winning this. Like, we don't care what stands in our way. I was expecting 50-mile-an-hour winds, pouring rain, and I was like, I'm like, we're gonna win this. We're not splitting a win. We're not gonna let them like change this tournament. We're gonna finish this tournament no matter what it takes. Um, and I have a 2-year-old, so I'm used to no sleep. I'm used to being up early, so I was ready for it. I knew the other team wouldn't be. So yeah, it was kind of a fun experience because we knew it was maybe historical, and I don't know if people have started that early before, but we were ready. We were determined, and I think we came out Sunday like ready to win, and yeah, it felt good playing.
It almost sounds like you're framing it like it was an advantage that there was potential high winds, lots of rain, having to get up early. Like, do you feel like it helped you guys?
I think so. I guess I'm used to doing that. Like if there's adversity, like it's a good thing. I think most of the times good things happen when there's adversity. Like I don't know if I've won a tournament just feeling perfectly great. Like I think one tournament Julie woke up with like strep throat, and we're like, all right, this is good. Something good's gonna happen. So that definitely helps to reframe things because yeah, things happen and it's a long season. So reframing things to yeah, expect like the worst, but prepare for it.
Where'd you learn that?
John Mayer.
Yeah, no.
No, I feel like we talked about it a lot in college and with sports psychologists and yeah, just reframing it to make it our advantage.
Pretty impressive. It seems like especially in our sport with all the adversity that comes and the unknowns, there's things like attacking and serving that, could be helpful, but that seems like even a stronger superpower to be able to like play better when things get hard. It must feel good to have that as a part of your team or as part of who you are.
For sure, yeah.
So back to Sunday, you guys win 2 more matches and you reach the finals. And you had reached the finals the past 2 seasons, and you even had a really close one where you're up maybe in the 3rd game and then had it snatched away from you. I guess at this point, can you take us through what sort of thoughts and feelings come up for you during, like, I'm entering the final here and preparing for it, another chance?
And I guess, sorry to add on, like I was having emotions of like it almost felt worse when you're in the finals. Like if you would have lost before, it's like okay. But once you're in the final, I was like, oh, they can't like just
Yeah,
can't lose now.
you're like, oh,
After
it's
all
really
you
cool.
went
They
through.
they climbed back and got a 3rd.
No, it was
That's
almost yeah,
awesome.
that would have been cool. And it was like
Yeah.
in the finals, and if they lose, I'm gonna be crushed.
Yeah. Thanks. I was gonna be crushed too because of those past 2 years. And I thought about it all year too. Like
Mhm.
um and all weekend. I knew like the what happened last year, how we were up and they came back and won and it still haunts me. I can't relive it. Um so yeah, it definitely like put more urgency. Like we really wanted to win. Um and I think we're up pretty big in the second set and the thought crossed my mind like, oh, we could win this. And I was like, no, like it's not over. Like it's not over until we get to 21 because comebacks happen. And I mean, it started downpouring even harder. So I think that helped us just kind of focus and be present and not think too much on those thoughts. But it definitely crossed my mind plenty of times over the weekend.
So in that,
Can we go through that for a second? Sorry, just how would you like acknowledge it? Would you or you just suppress it? Like as those thoughts keep coming up, I guess how do you interact with it? And then what's the next step after those thoughts come up?
Yeah, I think it's something I've learned to do is to be okay with the thoughts that come up because I can't control them. And as much as I would like to not think them, like they're there. So acknowledging them and then like rewriting my story. Like I get decide, I get to decide how I'm going to play here, and I get to decide how the story ends. Not like I can control that, but like reframing the narrative a little bit. Um, yeah,
And
what was
do you visualize that? Like do you actually like take yourself through that story? Like do you really write it? Or like how far do you go with that story?
yeah, more of like a visual thing than like truly like sitting and writing or anything.
Hmm.
Um, but I think the hardest part is acknowledging those thoughts because I really do love to suppress them. And it's better if I acknowledge it so I can move past it rather than just keep using the mental energy to push it away.
Hmm. So if you suppress it, it doesn't go away and it just causes more stress, where if you acknowledge it, then you can change the story or change the narrative. Is that
Yeah, it's almost distracting if I don't acknowledge it.
hmm.
And when I do, it helps me just like, all right, like read the server's hand or feel my toes in the sand or feel the rain on my body.
so I guess take us through the end of the match. Uh, what helped you guys play so well?
Um, I think it goes back to kind of the same things I've been saying. I think we were super determined. We were really present and like we had a game plan, ended up switching it up. And yeah, I thought we just really showed a lot of like grit and determination, and we were really focused and present no matter what the score was. Like it could have been easy for us to be complacent when we had a big lead. I don't know the exact score, but we were more focused just to get to 21 first. And we keep talking about that as a team. Like the match isn't over until someone hits 21 or someone hits 15. And we had a crazy comeback in the international event in Canada, where we're down against the #1 team in the world, I think 14-9, and came back and won. So now it's kind of like something we're owning, like we can come back from anything. So we also know on the flip side, other people can come back. We've seen it happen. We've done it. So we just really have to stay locked in no matter what the score is.
Yeah, I think that's another one of your strengths is I've seen you win games when you didn't even realize it's over. It doesn't seem like the scoreboard decides how you're going to compete and who you're going to be on the court. And I really admire that in the way you play. But so we've talked a lot about the mental side. Be curious just to hear about the physical side. I'd imagine playing the amount of matches you guys did, kind of going into that final, maybe not feeling like you could jump as well, move as quickly as you wanted to. I guess what do you do in those moments? What do you focus on, and how do you still bring out your best?
I honestly felt pretty good. I can't lie. I think the warm-up's the hardest part is just getting out there, and we we played matches really fast back to back to back on Sunday because it wasn't a time. They just said like 10 minutes after the next one, we're just trying to get these over with so we can get off the beach. I think that was the hardest part, is like trying to refuel, and then like the body, like right when it cools down, like you're definitely feeling that lactic acid. Um, but yeah, I didn't feel like I was focused on it too much. Um, Once I get warm, it's pretty good. So the warm up was key for me. I had Mark Paolui out there, and I was like getting a lot done, and I was hitting a lot of shots and hits beforehand before Julia was even going. So it was great to have him out there helping me, and I tried not to like cool off too much and just keep staying warm, staying loose.
It was a marathon more than a sprint. Sounds like it was nonstop.
Yes. Yeah.
So when you reflect back on this tournament, what's some of the big lessons you'll take moving forward?
We talked about this too, moving into Chicago, is like having that Sunday mentality every day, and not every day, every match, and trying to bring that do or die mentality right away. And focusing in like first match, obviously we know it matters, but like just being extra dialed in, extra locked in, and having urgency each match so we can hopefully stay in the winner's bracket.
You mentioned not getting complacent during the match, and now it sounds like you're talking about the same thing. Does practice feel different after a big win like that?
Yes and no. Like, I mean, it's fun to like ride the high for a little bit, but at the end of the day, no one else really cares. And you go to the next tournament and no one cares. It's about like proving ourselves. I'm sure we have a target on our back, even more so now. So I kind of like that. It fires me up when, yeah, just to have a target on the back, and I'm excited to bring it into Chicago.
And if we zoom out even more, what would you say, I guess, for you and Julia, and for you personally, what are some of your guys' goals as a team?
I mean, overall, Paris 2024 is the big goal. So a lot of international stuff. I think just continue to lock in as a team, and physically getting Julia healthy so we can keep performing at a high level. But Paris is the big overlying goal right now.
What does that mean to lock in as a team?
I think continuing to get better each tournament. It has been a challenge because of the injuries, like not getting all the practice time together, but maximizing the times we do have together and trying to make the most out of it.
And then why is Paris the main goal?
I mean, Paris Olympics, that's a big goal. But after I said it too, like world champs coming up is a big one for us. It helps point wise for sure. But yeah, I mean, beach volleyball, Olympics is the biggest stage. I'm, yeah, dreamt of playing in it. So super excited to have an opportunity to qualify.
And what, I guess, what keeps you going? And I guess getting to like more like your why, like why do you play the sport? Like there's a lot of challenges in being a professional beach volleyball player, and you can't control a lot of these outcomes. Only 2 teams get to go to the Olympics. So what's your why to put yourself and continue to do this?
Yeah, the why is super important and definitely helps me too when we have bad losses and these little girls come up and want our autographs. Like that's kind of what it's about, is like influencing these young athletes and obviously inspiring hopefully Cora one day she can see like she can chase her dreams, and if she's determined and really wants to do it, like she's able to do that. So just inspiring young athletes, inspiring moms and women that they continue to pursue their dreams and balance motherhood as well. Um, that's kind of the main why for me. And it's great to always reevaluate and to put things in perspective after wins, after losses. And yeah, at the end of the day, like that's what's way more important than going to the Olympics.
Cool.
Well, congrats on Manhattan. But before we let you leave, we have a lot more questions for you. Could we talk about serving?
Yes, we can.
All right. Why do you think, so when I think of you, I think of many skills, obviously. But why do you think you're so elite at serving? I remember accepting a Best Server of the Year award for you at an AVP banquet.
That was the best speech ever.
What was the
Best
speech?
I've ever given.
I think I told like I was Betsy and I thanked my husband Chase, and
That's right.
yeah, blah, blah.
That was a good one.
So yeah,
I'll have to find it.
What makes you so good?
I mean, it's something I've trained a lot. John's helped a lot. Tom Black's helped a lot. Training like the mechanics of it. And I mean, yeah, I think it's just one of those things that like I'm always trying to get better at too. Like I know I'm good at serving, but I'm still like John's challenging me in practice to like implement new serves and do new things. So it's something I'm continuing to still try to improve. I'm not just accepting that I'm good at it. But yeah, I just think having control of the ball is awesome. I was a libero in college, and it was awesome that I got to serve and I don't know, just get pounded balls at me all the time, which wasn't as fun. So it was great to have like a skill I could control.
What about so you're really aggressive with your serving, which leads to lots of points and lots of aces, but it also leads to times where there's more misses and even like misses that pile on top of each other. So what's your mindset after you missed a couple or you feel like a little bit off with your serve?
Yeah, it depends on the situation, but having like a cue I can go back to that can help me, and it kind of changes depending on the day. I do still want to be like fairly aggressive, but maybe having more of a like a safe aggressive serve. So maybe serving something like a middle serve seems less risky to me than serving like from the middle to the sideline, something like that. So kind of knowing like have my safe serves and the serves I'm really taking risks on. And yeah, as the game goes on and I like get more in a rhythm, I'll take a lot more risks.
What's an example of a cue you kind of fall back on?
Jump hard. I think that's something, especially late in tournaments, when you are feeling it in the legs a little bit, like I got to remind myself to jump hard so I can hit it at a higher point. And depending on the ball, sometimes I like jump up and down, and sometimes I like to just like go get the ball. So it depends on kind of what I'm feeling that day or what ball I'm playing with. But those seem to be my main cues.
Would you say you ease yourself into the match, like you start with more conservative, or are you coming out like guns blazing, going for aces off your first serve? Or does it depend?
It depends little, but I do like to go for aces right away. Um, I don't, I feel like sometimes people aren't always ready right away. Like that's the first point, you're a little shaky,
Mm.
not sure like who they're gonna serve. So it's nice to start aggressive.
Yeah. That's why I feel like you get always first serve, you get a lot of aces. Um, and throughout the match. So what do you do when you have thoughts come up? I mean, we already touched on this a little bit, just how you can't control your thoughts, but I imagine even you have thoughts come up, saying play it safe, just pop this one in, don't mess up, don't miss. Like how do you interact when those come up?
I have really embraced the think box, play box mentality that we've talked about with Bernie, where like in my say my serving space, like um that's my play box. Like I don't want to do too much thinking there. Um and then my think box would be like maybe a step away or maybe before I pick my spot serving. So like allowing myself to have some thoughts, but then when I get into my routine and I pick my spot and like I dial in on where I'm going, like that's it. And I'm gonna commit to that spot. That's when for sure I'm at my best. It's not that easy all the time, but ideally, like I've really embraced that in serve receive and as a server.
I've played players that have a good serve, but it's like an obvious trend of where they hit it. How many different serves do you use in a match?
Um, I mean, I haven't counted, but I love a short fade. I love a short serve. I like serving from a lot of different spots, and you kind of find where a player is weakest and they don't like seeing your serve from. Um, I do get a little bored serving the same serve over and over again, so I like to move around and change it up. And then for sure at the end of the match, like I'm going to be serving the one you really didn't like the most.
Yeah, can you talk more about, I guess, when you decide what serve to hit, like when you're back there, and you mentioned like maybe knowing a weakness. Do you stick with it? You said maybe save it for the end of the match. Can you take us through those decisions?
Yeah, I'd say my safe spot is serving from the middle. So serving from the middle anywhere. I usually start off the match and we'll kind of work my way around. Um, I do love exploiting someone's weakness, but if they're expecting it over and over again, like it's not going to work. So mixing it up always is a great thing to keep them guessing and keep them on their toes.
What about I know there's a lot of scouting that's done, and it seems like most coaches or players will scout, attackers. That's kind of the first thing people go to is, what are their offensive tendencies. Do you do much scouting? And if you do, how do you scout passers?
Yeah, we do a lot of scouting. I do love the offensive stuff too, but I definitely take note of like if a passer struggled or they're out of system or they're getting aced and where they're getting served from and kind of taking a mental note or even a physical note of what that is so I can test it out. And that's kind of the main thing for me. Um, yeah.
Do you do the same thing on the other side, where do you scout other servers and try to figure out their tendencies?
Not a ton. I feel like there's like plenty of time to read a serve in a way. For sure, I like to notice their trends a little bit, but I do think what they're doing depends on who they're playing too. But I like to take note of like, did they repeat after an ace or are they trying to go for a new spot? Like, how often do they serve the other person who's not getting served? Because you always want to stay ready. So those are the main things I would look for.
This is kind of a broad, big question, but do you feel like, and maybe a leading question, do you feel like serving is undervalued in the beach game? Like, I don't know, I think of indoor, like it's like kind of all that's talked about and so much time is put into it. Not all that's talked about, but do you feel like it's undervalued, I guess, out on the beach? Like people aren't serving tough enough?
Yeah, for sure. And it maybe is team or coach dependent, but I think it's a huge weapon and it is nice to also not always rely on it and like work on defense, which you've had me do in practice, is not doing like my A or B serve. That way I can really focus on defense, because there are some matches that my serve's not going as well as it should, and to develop those other skills. But yeah, I think it is a really important skill, and getting a team out of system, I mean, it narrows down their offense tremendously. So it's nice defensively. I think it can be looked at more.
This is a terrible hypothetical question, but let's say you had like a dead average serve. Like, I
I'll
don't know,
allow it.
yeah, okay, thanks, Billy. Let's say you just had like a Billy Allen sort of serve, like super average, maybe below average. And yeah, I guess where, like, how different a player would be. Like, would you have won any tournaments at this point? Like, I mean, how impactful do you think your serve's been on?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably be way more average. I do think it's helped me win tournaments. It's helped me win matches that maybe we shouldn't have won. Yeah, I think definitely it's my strength, and it's helped me become, yeah, one of the better players. So yeah, it's a weapon, and I think it should be trained by more people.
Would you say you have the best serve in the world?
I have a really good serve.
Ah, come on, own it. I would say you do.
April's not playing, so
Yeah, can't
I'll
have
take
your
it.
Evandra's pretty good.
Evandra. Yeah, the best
Yeah.
female server.
No, I'm just kidding. So you talked about people working on it. What advice do you have for players working on their serve in practice? Any drills or games or technique you'd recommend?
I think going from it early on, I think a lot of practices were like chipping balls in, like easing into it, like maybe to make the passer feel good. But I like going for it early on, and like working on the things you want to work on, because that's a ton of wasted reps that you're just like going through the motions. So training it even in those warm-up drills, even if your opponents give you a hard time about it. And yeah, just to mix up where you're serving from, because you don't know what the wind's going to do. You don't know what you're going to do in a match, and mixing up on the baseline, like where you're serving from.
When you're in practice, do you, and I think it's an interesting dynamic as a professional beach player, you're practicing against your future opponents. Do you like hold out some of your weapons, or are you just like, I'm working on my skills, like I don't really care if they, they're gonna have to deal with it?
I feel like I hold out a little bit. I
You
don't
save
always
some for
like
the
to,
match.
I don't like to show all my cards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you think they'll
But I
start to adjust.
do, yeah, like they'll start to know what to expect a little bit, but I do, I mean, it's dependent. Like I don't like to show everything, but I'm still like serving tough and working on the things I want to work on.
Mm-hmm.
But it is nice to save some things for the match, or only doing it like once in practice, but I'm going to do it a lot more in a match.
And then when you're evaluating your serve, whether it's in practice or in a match, are you evaluating more of the elements of it, like, oh, it was clean, or it was flat, or it was fast? Or are you evaluating more of how the passer is interacting with it? Like, I got them off balance, or I got them to shank it. Like, what are you drawn to? Like, how can you tell if you're serving the way you want to?
Usually how they take care of the pass, how they're handling it
Hmm.
more than anything. But I will notice like if they're handling well, I'm like, wow, I'm serving like 5 feet above the net. Like I want to get it more flat. Or yeah, I'm serving like I'm not serving deep enough, or I'm not serving short enough. Those things, but I do see how they're handling the pass too. And that's a factor.
Yeah, it seems like such a great lesson for coaches. I think so often coaches will have players serve to cones, or to open space, or to just an empty gym floor. And I mean, you're getting to hear one of the best servers in the world, like how important it is that you're getting the passer's response. Like, you have to see how they're responding. If you think about some of the buckets, and I probably won't hit all of them, but some of the buckets of serving, if you were to prioritize them, something like deception, or speed, or flat, or clean, those are some of the main ones. what do you think's for you? Like, what would you prioritize? Like, what's most important? Are you trying to be tricky and deceptive, or is it hitting it fast, or does it depend?
I think it depends a little bit on the ball too. I've
Mm,
been finding with the Wilsons, getting a little more speed is important for me. But I don't know if I can say there's just one.
yeah.
But I mean, definitely hitting space, hitting the open space is
Mm. So
priority.
accuracy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And last one on serving. If you were to try to coach Billy Allen and get him better at serving, what would be your advice? I know this is probably an impossible question.
Yeah, that's a terrible question. I don't know. What would I tell you, Billy?
Well,
He
guys,
ate
I've been holding my cards close to my vest for 20 years. I'm gonna just bring out the jumper in Chicago.
Chicago.
You didn't want anybody to catch on to
No.
your serving strengths, so you're saving
Yeah.
it for.
Yeah.
Got it. Smart.
I'm gonna tell Billy to get really good at defense.
He is very good at defense. All right. Well, kind of last topic we had, and you touched on it, so it sounds like it's something that's really important to you is parenting. And obviously it's become a big part of who you are in your life in the last 2 to 3 years. So I guess, yeah, first, how has being a parent influenced you as a player?
Yeah, it's definitely given me way more purpose. I always thought I was like focused and dialed in at practice, but I feel like I definitely don't want to like be wasting my time or going through the motions out there and taking advantage of the time that I'm away. It's definitely influenced my why, like I talked about earlier. Like we travel so much and it's so hard to be away, but honing in on that why and hopefully I'm inspiring her one day to like pursue her dreams. And I actually got a notebook recently from a friend and I write her a little note or a message from like every city I'm at, every tournament, which has been really cool. I was really good on the road. I can be better at home, but it's kind of fun. And hopefully one day she'll look back and think it's pretty cool.
That's really cool. I'm sure it's even just helpful for you to slow down and write a little bit. Um, I mean, you're still very, very young and you could play for another 15 years. Is it important to you for her to be able to see you play like in your prime, or just see? I mean, right now she might not remember much of it. So like,
Yeah.
I guess, how long do you want to play?
I don't know how long I want to play. Just gonna keep taking it year by year. But I did ask Mila Mayer if she wishes her dad still played, and she said yes, which was cool. I'm like, she's at the age where she really like gets it. But I don't know if I'll be playing it when Cora's older. So I
Yeah.
don't know. It's cool for her to come to events now and have memories. It's so hard on Chase. So I'm grateful when he gets to come. And obviously I couldn't be doing what I'm doing without him or Vicky coming into town, his mom, to help with Cora when I'm gone. So props to them. They're awesome.
Takes a village.
What are the challenges of being a parent and a pro athlete?
As I mentioned before, the travel and being away, um, the daycare situation. I mean, our sport, we don't make a ton of money, so that's really hard. But Chase has been awesome. He watches her all morning while I'm training, and then I come home and be a mom the rest of the day. And that's when it gets hard because I used to be able to recover or go sit on the couch and hang out. And now I'm on my feet. I'm running extra sprints. I'm always chasing her. She's so active and wants to be out and about. So it's hard, but it's so fun. Um, I'm definitely exhausted and ready to go to bed when she goes to bed every night.
And you mentioned before how you like to reframe challenges. Are there any advantages to being a mom?
For sure. Um, I go to practice a lot with not adequate sleep. And before I used to be so, yeah, loving sleep. I used to take advantage of getting all the hours. And now it's just the new normal. I do what I can and I just try not to complain about it and just refocus and, yeah, use it for like, okay, we're going to be traveling and there's jet lag. There's going to be times where I'm not sleeping. So it is to my advantage, we'll say.
Would
But yeah.
would you say you're tougher? Like you're, yeah, I guess more resilient now being a mom compared to the player you were before?
Oh yeah, way more resilient. I feel like I've gone through so much in 2 years, 2.5 years. Just so you guys know, like toddlerhood is very hard, and so is being a pro athlete. So mixing them together um, is also a challenge. But I definitely am a better mom because I'm an athlete and I'm able to like go take care of myself and work out and take time for me. And then I come home and I'm way more present. I think it'd be so hard for to be at home all day and not have that time to myself. So I definitely love that. And I'm able to be way more present when I'm with her.
That's great. That's a great message. I think it's so important as any parent to take care of yourself. You're going to be a better parent if you exercise and you spend some time away, even though you can feel guilty when you do it, but I think you'll be better in the time you get with your child. How do you find time to balance everything, to schedule it all, to make everything come together?
It's a great question. I don't know if I'm doing it well, but I'm surviving. It's working out with my schedule and Chase's schedule right now. And yeah, just sitting down and prioritizing things and organizing practices and trying to write to-do lists because it's easy to get caught up in like I start doing something and then Cora needs something and I totally forget to do it. So if I don't text you back, don't be offended. Just send me a backup text. But I'm getting better at writing to-do lists and just prioritizing things.
You have to schedule ahead of time. What's the challenges of, and this gets into like any team dynamics where you have people with different backgrounds and they're in different places in life. And obviously Julia is just out of college and younger and doesn't have a kid and has a completely different lifestyle. And like, how do you manage that? And how do you work through those dynamics?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important for everyone just to like, I feel like everyone's always going through something and just to kind of take care of yourself and look out for people around you. Like everyone's going through something. I feel like I've come to realize that as I'm older and especially being a mom, like all those parents out there, they're going through something always and understanding that. Um, Julia's awesome and we've been able to, yeah, do some great things. So it's nice she's able to learn from me in certain situations. And um, I feel like when I played with M Day, I was able to learn like the traveling and booking flights and all of that. And I feel like Julia's getting that a little bit from me, which is cool to like pass down. Um, yeah, so we're working it out.
That's great to have that empathy. And I'm sure at times it could feel easy to be jealous, like, oh, it'd be really nice to just be able to go home. But obviously everyone has challenges and um, yeah, it's probably better to be empathetic. So just to close out a couple questions, because I know we have, this is a coaching podcast and you also were a very high level coach. I guess first, how did coaching and how has being a coach helped you as a player?
I mean, it helped me a lot for sure when I was coaching actively while I was playing. It was cool to see like all our athletes be able to make changes and it's like, yeah, I can make that change too. If there's something like where I get stuck on, like just watching the girls we're coaching like get better is inspiring. And then I feel like working with you was awesome, John, because you always would bring in new things to the LMU girls, and I was able to bring it to my practices. So just implementing new things all the time was a lot of fun. And I definitely miss that side of it. I miss the practices and um, all the girls for sure.
Do you have future plans when you're retired? Will you coach again?
Only with you, John.
All right, we got it on record. It's a done deal. Okay, well, this was fun. It was fun to dive into an amazing weekend and to learn from the experiences and to hear all about how you responded to adversity, and it seems like how you just thrive under adversity. And appreciate you sharing everything, and congratulations again on an amazing season so far, an amazing weekend in Manhattan, and excited for what's next.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me and making me sweat.
Yeah, you survived the hot seat.
Thanks, Betsy.